and playground equipment. As you can all guess, there's a lot of shipping issues with COVID and Suez Canal and things of that nature. So certain products are almost being priced out on a daily basis. And Play and Park Structures called me and said there's a material surcharge that's on their existing quote of $3,700, and if the equipment wouldn't be ordered by May 14th, that number would double to $7,400 because of the nature of ordering products right now. So it's my recommendation. I believe you're going to act on it. Hopefully, the new business staff is to move forward on that bill. This is unfortunately I can get it cheaper anytime soon. So that's the recommendation for you. And then the other item on the consulting engineer's report is the cure and replace contract. You had two very large diameter storm sewers that were lined by a company out of Delaware called Standard Pipe Services. They came in, were able to do one per day, and the product turned out very well. It was a very difficult open cut project. Each of the lines was approximately anywhere from 10 to 18 feet deep. They were large diameter pipes, so the cure and place project worked out very well for you. It has its limitations, but it also has its positive benefits. So that's all I have to report on. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Kevin. Once again, I want to commend you on the cleaning that project. On time coming, out of your part. The bathrooms and the kitchen at the park.
You're welcome.
Congratulations to that. Also want to send congratulations to the Township manager, also our own board member, Russ Gray, who is a significant part of the quality control down there. I've seen that project through this done in a good way. And the very project's good. It looks good. It served the community for years and years to come. Like I said, it worked out. Okay. Thank you for your report. Let's move on to unfinished business. Before we move the motion on letter A there, Mr. Stanley, would you do a background check on that?
Sure. The township is in receipt of an application from Meadows Landing to rezone approximately 141 acres, which encompasses portions of two separate parcels along Landings Drive from a C2 to an R4 residential zoning district. The purpose of the proposed rezoning is to accommodate a mixed dwelling PRD comprised of 101 single-family detached units, 146 duplex units on 78 lots, and 87 townhomes totaling 334 units. The applicants participated in several meetings with the Planning Commission, and that's December 3rd, January 7th, February 4th, and the Board of Supervisors previously on December 15th, to present and receive feedback regarding the rezoning and the proposed PRD. At its February 4th meeting, the Planning Commission recommended the board approve the request to rezone the property from C2 to R4. The Planning Commission also recommended the board conditionally approve the master plan for the proposed PRD. In a letter dated February 2nd, the township engineer recommended approval of both the rezoning based on completeness and master plan based on compliance. The request to rezone the property is deemed consistent and comparable with the guidance provided by the Township Comprehensive Plan. The property is identified in a mixed-use area along the Route 19 corridor per the future land use map. And mixed use is defined as regulations that permit the use of both commercial and residential development. From a land use planning perspective, the proposed residential character of the development will seek to complement adjacent and nearby commercial areas along the 19 and Racetrack Road corridors. The applicant has addressed the following points deemed as priorities within the comp plan: providing diverse housing options that support different populations within the township, connectivity with both future and emergency access points and sidewalks, in continuity with the assigned mixed-use designation of the parcel, commercial and residential. A legal notice was published in the Observer Reporter on February 22nd and March 1st, advertising the public hearing that took place on March 23rd, in addition to a letter dated February 18th, mailed to the affected property owner, the applicant. Advertisement of the public hearing was also posted along the applicant's property per the requirements of the Township zoning code. The Township Board of Supervisors closed the public hearing on the matter and directed legal counsel to prepare findings of fact and conclusions of law for the zoning map amendment. Please note, the board approved the applicant's master plan at the previous meeting, conditioned on the approval of the rezoning application this evening. Mr. Alan Beachy of Scheffler and Company, representing the applicant, is in attendance to present the request and take any additional questions from the board.
Why don't we start there? Where is, we're gonna do through Zoom? Okay, who are we gonna bring on first?
Alan Beachy, he's muted right now, but he's on the screen if you guys want.
Yeah, this is Alan Beachy. How you guys doing?
Very good, Dave.
Yeah, if you have any questions at all, I can answer them for you.
Give us any type of a briefing you need to give us right now. If you don't have any briefing, then we'll go on with the questions. But open it up for us, so give us a little outline what's going on here.
Yeah. The request is to rezone it to R4 to allow a mixed-use residential development. And as Patrick said, you know, we've submitted a multitude of materials, and we're currently pursuing doing final designs, and we'll be submitting that in the next week or so.
Does any member of the board have any questions? Anyone? Chris, go ahead. You have some questions to clarify anything? Do we need to have any more said?
No, the hearing has been open, closed. I have all my questions answered. I've prepared findings and conclusions.
Okay, I'll read the motion. Motion to approve rezoning request of Meadows Landing to LP and adopt findings of fact and conclusions of law. Adopt in order to rezone the Meadows Landing property consisting of parcel ID 6100-001-00-00-0017-18 and 600-00100-00-0017-23 from a C2 general commercial district to R4 medium density residential district. Need a motion? Move to approve. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Second. I'll second it. Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Any further discussion by any board member? All those in favor of approving the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Thank everybody for the hard work.
Thank you, too. Thanks for appearing this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, it's good letter B. Motion approving the resolution. Before we can discuss that, we have to remove that particular motion from the table. Correct. So I have a motion to remove from the table. I'll make that motion to take it off the table. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. That was second remove from the table. Second. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. All those in favor of removing the motion from the table for discussion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, can you give us a briefing on it there, Mr. Stanley?
Sure, and without going on into all the detail that's set forth in that resolution, primarily what we are seeing is a resolution that the Washington County Association of Township Officials, their executive board or board of directors has approved a stance regarding the Pennsylvania's entry into partnership with the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. It appears that their resolution is in opposition to that, given what they have identified here. And now that this matter is in a public hearing process, they are asking members of the Washington County Association of Township Officials to pass a resolution that does not support this initiative. That, yeah, in a nutshell.
Let's I'm gonna make the motion and we can have time for discussion. We have someone to make a motion approving the resolution earning on the floor. Okay, I need someone to remove the motion.
make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Yes,
Go ahead, Mr. Booth.
before we vote on this, I want it to be as painfully clear as I can make it. That what we are doing here by passing this resolution is helping the bottom line of West Penn Power at the expense of the clean air of the residents of Washington County and South Strabane County. I find this incredible. And I would like to enter into the record several observations regarding the deleterious effect of carbon dioxide on human beings. Excuse me. Monthly average atmospheric carbon dioxide levels have topped 410 parts per million for the first time in, listen up, 800,000 years. CO2 levels will dramatically increase pollution levels and related disease, causing extreme weather events, including deadly heat waves, and broaden the range of disease carrying insects such as mosquitoes and ticks. If unchecked, this will lead to a 6-degree increase in global temperatures, 3 times that deemed acceptable by the Paris Climate Agreement. A recent study shows that air pollution is the cause of death for 9 million people every year. Unchecked increases in carbon dioxide and the resultant increase in global temperature has resulted in the melting of the polar ice cap and resultant flooding in communities adjacent to waterways. And recent increases in global temperatures have resulted in devastatingly strong hurricanes, monsoons, wildfires, and flooding. So before we vote on this, let me remind you one more time, a vote yes is for the bottom line of West Penn Power. A vote no is for clean air for the residents of the township.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a point to make. Yeah, yes, we're gonna tax West Penn Power. But who's gonna pay for that ultimately? It's gonna be the residents of the township, because they're gonna pass that tax right along to us. It doesn't really fix the problem. If you wanted to fix the problem, you would look to promote clean energy, promote solar energy or wind power. But this isn't gonna fix this problem. All it's gonna do is raise the cost of energy.
Mr. Chairman, if I might respond.
Yes, sir.
That's exactly what this does. It takes the revenues from West Penn Power and puts it into alternative energy sources, in education and literally in reducing the cost of alternative energy.
But who's gonna pay for that? It's not gonna be
West Penn Power.
No, West Penn Power is not gonna, they're gonna increase the price of energy. It's gonna, that money's gonna come from us, out of our pocket. It's not coming from West Penn Power. You can look at the price of gasoline. It's taxed through the roof in Pennsylvania. Who's paying for that? Us, not the gasoline companies. And this is the same thing.
Any further discussion? Okay, Mr. Stanley, for this motion, we have a motion and a second to a discussion over. How about the roll call vote?
Mr. Byrne,
Adamantly no.
Mr. Grego.
Yes.
Mr. Lukatich,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Chair Moore, or, excuse me, Chair Weber.
What do you think you're doing?
I apologize.
That's it, okay. Yes. Motion passes 4-1. Let's move on to number 9, new business. Resolution honoring the public service of the Township Board. Want to give a little briefing here, or just want to read the resolution?
Would you like to read the
I'll
resolution?
read the resolution.
Okay.
What we want to do with this. Thomas Moore, so you know, was a member of this board. particular team here, up until a short time ago, he resigned. And that's why Russ Grable is here. But we do want to honor his service. He spent 11 years working for the township at this particular board. Let me read it. Strabane Township, Washington County, Pennsylvania. Resolution recognizing the public service of Thomas L. Moore. Whereas after careers as an educator and business owner, Tom L. Moore has served the residents of Strabane Township in a variety of roles. And whereas Tom served on the Park and Recreation Council from 2014 to 2016 and worked to maintain green space and build upon recreational amenities for the township's residents. And whereas Tom served as a member of the Board of Supervisors from 2008 to 2014, during which he served as the capacity of chairman in 2009 and 2013. And whereas through the leadership of Tom Moore, he helped guide the Board of Supervisors during its consideration of many issues of significance which benefit the township and its residents, including the construction of the Strabane Township Police Department. And whereas Tom was re-elected as a member of the Board of Supervisors from 2016 to March of 2021, on which time he served as chairman in 2017 and 2020. And whereas Tom also served on Victory Center Neighborhood Impact District Board from 2018 to 2020. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Strabane Township Board of Supervisors of the County of Washington and the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that Strabane Township hereby recognizes Thomas L. Moore for his many years of service to the township and its residents. And such recognition and the gratitude of Strabane Township we publicly express to Thomas L. Moore for his service to the community, and that this resolution be incorporated in the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting, that an executed copy of the resolution be presented to him as a token of appreciation for his service to Strabane Township. Dated this 27th day of April 2021 at Strabane Township, Washington County, Pennsylvania. Let's get a round of applause. Board will indulge me a little bit. I'll give you a little briefing on Tom. Tom and I over the years, since we served on the board together the last 5 years, more than 5 years, he became a good friend of mine. So he graduated from East Washington High School. He attended and graduated from Potomac State College in West Virginia. He furthered his education at WVU and graduated from West Virginia University. He came out of school and he became a school teacher. He was a school teacher at Assembly High School in Pittsburgh for a period of time. But he walked away from that to enter the couple of different businesses, particularly the jewelry business and the real estate business, where he was very successful. As I pointed out here, he came into this, he's been like a lifelong guy. Even though he moved to Florida and moved back, so forth, things like that, he pretty much always had his heart in Washington County and Strabane Township. So he enjoyed serving this township, and he did it a very good job. And I was pleased to serve with him. I'm sure my fellow board members are pleased to serve with him. And not only was he a good board member, and we will miss him, but in my account anyways, I think I can speak to the other fellows on the board, he was also a very good friend. So once again, thank you, Tom Moore, and Godspeed. So, let's move on, folks. Let's go to 9B. Resolution granting preliminary and final minor subdivision approval for the Hendricks subdivision along Country Club Road. Anything you need to say on that, Brandon?
Sure, let me just provide an update. The Township's received an application from Mr. Hendricks for a preliminary and final minor subdivision for a plan along Country Club Road. Mr. Hendricks is proposing the creation of 2 additional lots deriving from 2 existing lots, consisting of 3.6 acres within the R3 residential zoning district. Township engineer reviewed the subdivision application for completeness and compliance with the township's saldo and recommended preliminary and final subdivision approval conditionally upon the stated deficiencies being addressed prior to final consideration by the Board of Supervisors. The Planning Commission recommended preliminary and final subdivision approval of the Hendricks subdivision along Country Club Road per the township engineer's comments, and the execution of an agreement between Mr. Hendricks and the township concerning a residence no longer being used as a single-family dwelling on proposed lot number 1. Additionally, the applicant has not prepared a maintenance agreement for the proposed 25-foot maintenance access easement for proposed lot number 2. To date, the applicant has not provided an agreement for the township's consideration. The township solicitor does not recommend approving the subdivision without an agreement between the township and the applicant. And as this is the case and the agreement has not been provided, it is recommended the board deny this matter. And the idea behind a denial of a request is there is a clock that ticks in the code. And if this goes on for so long without any type of action, it becomes deemed approval. And we always want to avoid deemed approvals. So since we do not have those items that we have asked for, the solicitor and the zoning officer and township manager are recommending denial.
If I may add to the board as well, when I wrote to the Hendricks attorney, I offered for them to come back to the planning commission or come here and offer any other alternative, but I cannot recommend approving something that creates a zoning violation, which is what we would be doing.
Anything else? Anybody else will speak? Yeah, I see Mr. Hendrick will be.
I think Mr. Hendricks, yeah, Mr. Hendricks is in attendance.
I got an attorney, and I took a letter that Patrick gave me what I needed, and he requested that she would contact a solicitor and get something worked out and have it written. Somehow she must have misunderstood it, because I called her Friday and asked her what was going on. She said that the solicitor hasn't contacted her, so she said she was going to contact them and call me. Well, she called me yesterday afternoon at 1:30 and said that it was turned down, that the township said that they weren't going to pay for this because I was submitting a subdivision plan. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? So somewhere she was disconnected, because why would I go there to pay her money to have something? So I don't know what to do. So I told her yesterday, no, Stephanie, you're something ain't right here. You're supposed to call him, ask him, make sure he agrees with what I'm asking for. And I told her that yesterday, and I told her I wish it would be done today, and she never called me back.
Well, all of my communications with her were in writing. So you can see the date that she wrote us the letter and my responses. If she can provide those with you. I'm not going to do that. She's your attorney, but she wrote to us and said that you did not want to give up the rental income from the other structure at the time, and that if we wanted an agreement, because the township wanted the agreement, that you weren't going to pay for the agreement. So I responded to her, well, that's fine, but we can't, if you want to keep that structure, we can't approve the zoning we can't approve that request that creates a zoning violation. So I told her to come back when you're ready to do that, or come back to the planning commission and see if we can come up with something else.
Well, she didn't tell me any of that other than that I was turned down.
It was different than what we talked about at the planning commission meeting. I wasn't expecting that letter from her. She said,
I don't know what, she never even said, I don't know what she sent it. I'm requesting that we turn that structure into a garage for the house that's on the same piece of property. And that's what I was requesting that, that big open lot, I was giving my kids for them to build a house on sooner or later, that I would abandon that property as a garage or a storage or whatever prior to them moving into it. And that's what I requested, because it might be 2 years before anybody moves in there. Right now it's non-conforming anyway, and I got renters in there anyway, so I didn't think. So that's where I'm at.
Right. It's clearly right now in your financial interest to continue to rent that property. So maybe now is not the time to subdivide.
So I'm David Houser with RTC Group. Can this agreement be contingent upon an occupancy permit for the new structure? So it will maintain being a rental property until the time.
Well,
occupancy permit was.
There may be a way to achieve what you're talking about, but we're not going to do that right now. I mean, we had a whole planning commission meeting about it. This is the plan that we came up with, and the attorney came back with something different. So this is kind of what we responded. Hey, that's fine, do what you want to do, but it's not time.
I'm just saying I'm unaware of what was done.
We're trying to get an understanding of what you would be okay with, so we can give the attorney the correct direction.
Well,
because it's already been confused.
The problem is, we went to I know I'm repeating myself, but the planning commission made a recommendation with two contingencies, and neither of them were met. So if you want to do it, that's
What's the first one?
the easement, the maintenance agreement for the easement.
I
Forwarded it out on the email, I think, the next day as well, either Patrick or Randy.
We can get that copy to Chris.
Oh, yeah, I don't have that. But the other issue is the zoning violation. I don't know how much time do we have until he runs out.
I don't have that available. Do you have the process available here until this application runs out, deemed approved?
I can look it up and you guys.
I think it's 45 days or 90 days total, I think.
Well, can we table this to next month's meeting then?
I'll tell you what we'll do. I will recommend to the board, if they table it with your writing right now that says you're going to give us an extension of the deadlines, and then it's up to the board if they want to. But yeah, I would request that you write that on a piece of paper right now and sign it and say. I
The
hereby-
extension should be in 60 days. A 60-day extension. Okay?
Yeah, and then if you want to come up with something that, that's what the planning commission recommended. You want to do something other than what the planning commission recommended, I'm going to suggest you go back to them and propose something different. Because otherwise, that's what this board has, is they have that recommendation from that planning commission. That's their job, to look at this stuff first and make a
So
recommendation.
based on the sewer easement, document agreement being before the plan, and there's no on the plan now stating that, and the agreement between the township and Mr. Hendricks on what is going to happen with that structure in the future.
I'm not saying.
That's what the planning commission recommended. I'm just clarifying so that we can get clear direction.
Right, and that's correct, but when we went back to talk and the attorney said his client wants to maintain that rental income, I'm sure that hasn't changed in the past 30 days, right?
No, like I just stated.
So maybe
earlier,
now is not the time to subdivide.
Well, the thing is, it's tough to talk to a bank about building or anything without having this in place, so that's. Okay.
So it may not be time to subdivide.
Yeah, I mean, we just can't approve something that creates a violation, that's all. Unless, like I said, the planning commission came up with that.
What's the violation?
More than two principal structures on one lot. I'm gonna suggest that you come back to you give us that in writing right now, or I'm gonna instruct the board that they should deny it, you have to reapply again, and then come back to the planning commission with your ideas. Because we're in the middle of a public meeting and we're coming up with ideas for the first time that nobody has had time to think about, look at. These guys don't have the regulation in front of them, they don't have the zoning code in front of them. We've been having conversations since the last meeting, and I just don't think we're not gonna resolve it right now. Come back to the planning commission meeting with that note, with the note that you do right now.
You want the board to remand it back to the planning commission?
Yes,
With the
that's a
60-day
good idea.
extension? Okay.
Yes. Does that sound okay?
Chris,
Let me write this
how
out.
the motion read?
Well, there isn't going to be a motion. What I'm going to ask you to do is make a the motion would be to remand this matter back to the planning commission because Mr. Hendricks is granting us an extension of the deadlines under the MPC
By 60 days.
by 60 days. And then the
So
planning,
it's not deemed approved.
so it's not deemed approved. Yes.
Once again, stated, Mr. Stanek and Mr. Flynn, so we can move forward.
It's a motion to remand the subdivision application back to the planning commission for further review and recommendation, provided the conversation tonight and based on the desire for the applicant, Mr. Hendricks, granting a 60-day extension of the time requirement.
Chris, you okay?
I'm writing out his extension right now.
And then Mr. Hendricks can sign that.
Yes.
You want us to wait till you write that out? You want us to move? We'll wait for you.
Let's wait just 30 seconds to be done. Mr. Hendricks, what's your wife's name?
Shelby.
Okay. Okay, and what it says is, I, John S. Hendricks, with due authorization of Shelby Hendricks, hereby grant South Strabane Township an extension of time to consider voting on our subdivision application of 60 days. Thanks.
Kelly, you attest to that. You attest, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we'll take that.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Okay, letter C. Motion approving agreement with Mr. and Mrs. Zach and Lindsay Anderson for live burning training, and delayed demolition of a structure for the property at 500 Advanced Station Road. Mr. Stanley, can you brief us on that?
Sure. The township is in receipt of a request from Zach and Lindsay Anderson, the property owner, to construct a new house on their property at 500 Advanced Station Road without first demolishing and removing the existing principal structure. Pursuant to the zoning code, only one single-family dwelling is permitted per lot. The property owner is seeking relief from this requirement as a result of allowing the fire department to conduct a live burn training in the existing house. The live burn training will most likely not be completed until late summer, and the property owner would like to start construction of the new house at this time. As having a live burn is most beneficial to the fire department for training purposes, an agreement has been prepared by the township solicitor that addresses the following. It allows the property owner to construct a new house on the lot without first removing the existing principal structure, commits the existing structure to the fire department to conduct the live burn training, ensures the property owner conducts the required asbestos abatement of the existing structure, indemnifies the property owner in the event any accidents occur as a result of the training, indemnifies the township for any damage to property resulting from the training, ensures any remaining portion of the existing structure is demolished and debris removed within 60 days after the training concludes, and requires the property owner to reimburse the township for any costs associated with drafting of the attached agreement.
Is that it, Mr. Stanley?
That concludes the report.
Fire chief here, we okay?
Yes, just so the board's aware, I met with Mr. Anderson, he's here tonight.
Okay.
Also met with Bill McMullen, which is our instructor through the state of Pennsylvania. And we had worked out the dates to do so. It's a nice opportunity to be able to have an acquired structure for us to train in, to be able to do the certification. And with everything that's lined up here today, this will approve it. You go ahead and do it, and we have our dates already for September the 8th, September the 15th, and September the 18th. The house will come down after the end of that day.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you very much. Let's see here. We okay with this, Chris? Did you check?
Yes.
Okay. And of course, the township manager. I need a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Luke. I need a second. I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Okay, we'll have a vote on it. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, letter D, public hearing for the consideration of a conditional use application of Pennsylvania Finance 2 LLC pursuant to Article 14 of the South Strabane Township zoning code concerning the Burkett Manor planned residential development along Burkett Lane in R4 residential medium density zoning district. Okay, Mr. Stank, I turn over to Mr. Furman, please give a brief description of it.
Sure thing. So we've seen Burkett Manor before. This is a proposed planned residential development in front of us that is making its way through the process. So this is now a conditional use application from the property owner, PA Finance 2 LLC, for the Burkett Manor PRD along Burkett Lane. You may recall the applicant was before the board seeking approval for a rezoning application for their 55.6 acre parcel from C2 to R4 and master plan for the aforementioned PRD. And during a public hearing on February 23rd, the board unanimously approved the rezoning from C2 to R4 per the township solicitor and the engineer's comments. Additionally, the board unanimously approved of the presented master plan. Note that the board expressed their interest in seeing the applicant construct a community clubhouse as an amenity within the PRD. The developer advised that they would evaluate having a clubhouse, and as a result of their evaluation, they have indicated they are not moving forward with a community clubhouse. Per the township code, a planned residential development is a conditional use within the R4. The applicant has provided responses within their project narrative to these conditions and these outlines. And highlights of the proposed PRD include the following. We have 102 age targeted patio homes and 43 age targeted townhomes. 41% open space where 20% is required, and a neighborhood park consisting of 2 pickleball courts, a shelter, and a fire pit, 3 parklets with seating, 2 walking trails with seating, 2 walking trails and sidewalks on both sides of the streets. Note the following minor de minimis changes from the approved master plan. There are now 102 patio homes, and the master plan had 101. There is now 41% open space. The master plan had 40%. There are now 3 parklets with seating. The master plan had 2. During their April 1st regular meeting, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the conditional use per the township engineer's comments and the condition that the applicant's right-of-way agreement be reviewed. In a letter dated April 23rd, the township engineer reviewed the conditional use application for completeness and compliance with the township's code and recommended approval while noting deficiencies within the application, which include an unresolved inquiry from Paul Bartz, who owns the property at the corner of Burkett and Route 19, regarding what occurs if Burkett Lane becomes public as far as the frontage that he has on Burkett as it connects to a state road. And I think we have Stephen Victor in attendance?
Yes.
Okay. I will, actually, we will let Chris set the meeting up or hearing up.
As is typical format, I'm intend to present a number of documents. I'm going to ask the board to move for their entry into the record as exhibits A through O. That's the conclusion of that. I'm going to turn it over for a presentation from the applicant, questions from the board, comments from the board, response from the applicant, then we'll open it up to public comment and further questions from the board if appropriate at that time. So to begin with, I'm just going to read off where's the microphone at?
Right.
Oh, okay. We read off the list of the exhibits and give them their names and hand them over to Sheila. Exhibit A is the request for board action to cover memo that everybody has in front of them. Exhibit B is the conditional use application regarding Burkett Manor with a list of property owners within 100 feet, 300 feet attached. Exhibit C is the Burkett Manor project narrative. Exhibit D are the minutes of the April 1st, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. Exhibit E is the March 31st, 2021 review letter from KLH Engineering. Exhibit F is the letter dated April 1, 2021 from Victor Wetzel Associates in response to the KLH review letter. Exhibit G is a letter from KLH, another review letter from KLH dated April 23, 2021. Exhibit H is an illustration indicating the proposed street dedication, which would be Burkett Lane. Exhibit I is a street light plan. It's called schedule on here. Exhibit J is a legal notice dated April 15th and April 20th, 21 regarding consideration of the conditional use at the Planning Commission or for this hearing. Exhibit K is the public notice that was given to the neighboring property owners within 300 feet of the proposed conditional use. Exhibit L is a list of the property owners within 300 feet of the affected area. Exhibit M is the Burkett Manor tentative PRD plans. It consists of 8 sheets, 8 drawings. Exhibit N is a 22-page PowerPoint presentation for use at this public hearing submitted by the applicant. And letter O is a letter from Bailey and Wyant dated March 10, 2021 regarding Washington Investments LLC willingness or intent to transfer to the township Burkett Manor.
Burkett Manor PRD,
What was the name of the street?
Burkett Lane.
Burkett Lane. And with that, I would like a motion from the board to have all these exhibits entered onto the record.
So moved, I make that motion.
Second motion. Very good. Any
I
further-
believe all of these exhibits are in the supervisor's packet.
All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wetzel, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Victor from Victor Wetzel Associates, and I'd like to present to you what was entered to you as Exhibit N, the PowerPoint presentation. It will hopefully introduce you and the public to all of the steps that we've gone through and our compliance with the conditional use and preliminary PRD requirements. The site itself is 55 acres and has been zoned to R4 residential. During the rezoning process, a master plan for development was approved for an active adult community with 101 single-family patios type lots and 43 townhouses. The preliminary D plan is nearly identical to the rezoning plan with just a few additions to the plan itself. One more single-family patio lot, one more parklet, and the emergency access trail. The townhouses that will be constructed for the 43 units near the entrance will be the Heartland Serenade Townhome, and the location of it is shown here in the north corner of the site. Heartland Homes will also be the builder of the patio homes that will be constructed in the plan. The patio homes, 102 of them take up the southern 2/3 of the site. 41% of the site, the green area on the drawing here, will be set aside as open space to be owned by the homeowners association. Within the open space will be the recreational components, which will be the community park, where there'll be 2 pickleball courts, a fire pit and a shelter, and a small parking court. There are 3 parklets to be located scattered through the patio neighborhood. There are 2 trails running through the open space and a 3rd trail, which will also serve as an emergency access connection from the end of Red Bud Lane down to Burkett Lane. It will also connect with Yellowwood Court. There are sidewalks throughout the plan on both sides of the street for interconnectivity for all of the units, and also just to access the parks and trails within the plan. The first 250 feet of Burkett Lane from Washington Road to our entrance road, Black Oak Lane, as highlighted here in yellow, will be dedicated as a public street. Currently, that portion of the property is owned, portion of it by the applicant, PA Finance 2, and a portion of it by Washington Investment LLC. The township is in receipt of a letter of intent from Washington to participate, I should say, from Washington Investments LLC to participate with PA Finance 2 for the dedication of the public street. It is understood that if the street needs to be brought up to public standards, it's a relatively new street, but if it does not meet public standards, then it will be brought up to public construction standards prior to the dedication. None of the action taken by the dedication will restrict the Broke Us limited partnership property that's adjacent to Burkett Lane. For public safety purposes, there are 2 future street connections, one at the south end and one at the westerly end of the site for connectivity to some of the neighboring collector streets. In addition, the emergency access can occur along the trail, again, between Red Bud Lane and Burkett Lane. There are proposed 15 street lights throughout the plan, located at either intersections, the parklets, the end of cul-de-sacs, or at the mailbox collection points. A PRD is a conditional use in the R4 zoning district, and as such is subject to meeting the conditions in Article 14. The above chart, which was submitted as part of the narrative and is on the PRD plans, shows Burkett Manor's compliance with the specific standards in Article 14. In addition, there are general standards for conditional uses, and those have also been responded to in writing, basically stating that Burkett Manor will not endanger the public health, safety, or welfare, or deteriorate the environment. Burkett Manor will comply with the performance standards for fire protection, electrical disturbance, noise, vibrations, odors, smoke, ash, dirt, fumes, vapors, and gases, glare, erosion, water pollution, and as part of our application, we have submitted wetland, traffic, geotechnical, and stormwater reports that have been reviewed by the township's consultants and engineers. It is understood the township has the right to make inspections and enforcement of any of the township's ordinances. In addition, this general standards, Burkett Manor meets the parking requirements for the township's signage and parking requirements. Burkett Manor's traffic study shows how traffic can be accommodated safely with the proposed and existing road network. All lights will have cutoff angles of less than 60 degrees and won't exceed 0.2 foot candles at the perimeter boundaries. And as shown on the plan, all sidewalks will have ADA ramps at all street crossings. We believe Burkett Manor will be in the public interest in that it will create housing opportunities for the active adult community. It will offer 2 types of housing with patios and luxury townhouses. It will provide for future street connections to Davis School Road and Meadowview Road. It will generate approximately $55 million in new real estate value. And as an active adult community, it will not generate school enrollment increases. What we're looking for this evening and we're holding is the public hearing for the preliminary PRD, planned residential development, and be happy to answer any questions that either the public or the board may have at this time. Thank you.
Are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Okay. Before we go further, I would like to point out that the letter from Washington Finance, although it's a letter of intent, it doesn't really obligate them. It says they intend to hand it over to us. I just want to point that out, accept that. That might be something we want to ask Mr. Victor about. It says that they intend to hand it over upon signature of the agreement with PA Finance too. I don't know where that stands with their agreement. If they never come to an agreement, that might not come to fruition. So that might be something to ask about.
You could ask that question.
Okay.
No, we can't have.
No.
The
Well-
letter of intent was the initial step for preparation of the agreement. And that agreement is being put together right now by the attorneys, and a copy of.
Stephen, could you
Yes.
go ahead and restart that? The connection was cutting out.
Sorry. What I was saying was the purpose of the letter of intent was to show that both parties agree for the public dedication, and we'll be happy to work forward with the township solicitor to formalize that agreement. We fully acknowledge that it's going to be a condition of the approval that that we enter into an agreement formally dedicating the public road right of way.
Well, I don't think we can do that yet because it's not ready to be dedicated, but I just wanted to make sure that the condition in that letter of intent said upon the execution of an agreement between PA Finance and Washington. So for Washington Finance and the other entity.
Yeah.
So if that could be the condition, I would be okay with that.
I can tell you both parties have agreed to the terms. So it's just a matter of putting together the agreement.
Okay. So if we make that a condition, that condition would already be met. I would still be more comfortable making that a condition. Okay. With
We're
that,
happy to accept that.
Thank you.
We're going to open up for board discussion. Who would like to go first? Anybody? Rich?
Yeah, I have a question for you. That 41% open space, I'm sure you're going to disturb that. How do you plan on replanting it?
The drawing on the screen right now shows the area in bright green as the existing vegetation that would remain. The area where you'll see the cross hatching here in area D, A, E, etc. throughout the plan, these various crosshatched areas, there would be a reforestation taking on as identified on the landscaping plan. It's basically a planting of saplings to give a kickstart for the reforestation of that area. We've used this in other developments, and it's an excellent way by which to regenerate the forest.
Okay, you said there was going to be 15 street lights throughout the plant. Who's responsible for those? Is it the HOA that's paying for to power those and take care of them, or
the townships, the streets within the plan will be township streets with the exception of Yellowwood Court. If it is the township's policy to take over the streetlights, we would follow that. If they are not, then they'll be done by the HOA.
Where are we at? Like, we take the lights out?
If we want.
Yeah. Just wanted clarification.
that would be an option for us to do that.
Okay, one other thing, in our township, we did an energy study on the buildings that are owned by the township, which includes, public works, the police department, fire department, and our municipal buildings. Do you do anything like that with these, with your plans, for the homes to see what type of energy is used in each, household?
The builder on this is Heartland Homes, and I highly suspect that they do have that type of study for their units to show the energy efficiency of the units.
Could we see that? Could you provide that to us? Because that is it's kind of the up and coming thing in the United States, energy and how it's being used.
We'd be happy to contact Heartland and have them provide that to you for their units.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to go before me?
Yeah, I'll just go on. You said you did a traffic study. I do frequent the gas station there quite often. It does get backed up, including 145 homes in there. So you think that light's gonna handle that it's not gonna get backed up? Especially on 19 coming south. Where the cars, depending on the time of the day when everybody's coming home, that there might not be enough of the deceleration ramp. And they may back up onto 19.
The traffic study was done jointly, what was prepared by our traffic engineer, Gateway Engineers, but it was reviewed by the township's traffic engineer and also by PennDOT. And PennDOT approved the traffic study, and it does not show that improvements are necessary to the Route 19 Burkett Lane intersection. As you know, PennDOT is quite happy to spend other people's money, and they had certainly an opportunity to request that we make improvements to it, and it was not deemed necessary.
No,
Kevin, did you review that? You drew that.
Hey, Mr. Victor, this is Bob Weber again, your old friend about the clubhouse.
Yes, sir.
You have it says here, after a careful consideration, Burkett Manning went up and proposed a community center with a clubhouse. The main interested in the clubhouse with a meeting room. Heartland market research tells them that their buyers are not interested in using and maintaining the clubhouse. Where is research take place?
I specifically went back to Heartland Homes and the developer, and it was basically the market research by Heartland Homes with all of the projects that they have in the Pittsburgh area, and they believe that the buyer in this particular area is not interested in that. So we gave them the space to accommodate it. They chose not to.
Mr. Victor, they're gonna have one or two HOAs down there.
There will be a master HOA for the entire community, and then a sub-community HOA for the townhouses and one for the patios.
Three HOAs.
The homeowners association.
Right, I got it. I belong to one. Now I'll ask you another question, Mr. Victor. Where are these folks gonna conduct business and have their meetings? Do you have any ideas for that?
The expectation is there's hotels just down the road that have meeting rooms for rent, and that they certainly can have them at that location.
You realize the extent of their business affairs, the things they have to take care of? Are you familiar with that?
Yes, sir. I totally am.
You don't,
And-
you want them to rent a room rather than have a meeting place in their own community.
It will be cheaper for the homeowners association to rent a room once a year or twice a year for their meetings that will be to build and maintain a clubhouse.
Tell me about the
That
shelter a
was the
little bit.
decision. that was-
How many people can fit in that shelter?
I suspect it's probably a dozen.
About 12 people fit in the shelter, that's it. I'm not happy with not having a clubhouse. Clubhouse is very, very important, and a necessity, particularly this area. You have 3 homeowners associations. Each and every time you want them to meet, there's 3 annual meetings, you want them to go to a hotel or rent one. Well, I don't know what they cost at a hotel, but why oppose to that? I don't understand why you're opposed to it. It'd be more attractive. People know they're getting to do an HOA. They realize what an HOA is when they buy into this place. Are you going to?
Please understand.
Are you going to inform people about that? About HOA, that when you sign up these people for buying homes, and that's what there's no community center, there's no meeting room, and your HOAs run their own to find meeting space and store their businesses there.
The decision was not mine to make. It was made by the people who are marketing it. And they believe that it would be a negative, not a positive, for the buyers within the plan. It's not to say that when the buyers, when they get in here, if they choose to build it, they can always take the space for the pickleball courts or any of the common area and construct their own clubhouse.
Well, Mr. Victor, I don't know how about fellow board members, they all have their own vote to make, but I'm not happy about it. And I think 3 big HOAs down there, master one, 2 smaller ones, and you don't have a meeting room and a place they can file their affairs and run their computers and the things they need to communicate with their folks and keep them up to date and keep everything transparent and snug in a bug. I'm not with you.
Yeah.
I think the other part of the project is very good, very nice, very beautiful. But I'm not with you. And I don't know how the board's gonna go on it, but that's up to them. But I'm not happy about no clubhouse.
I can tell you though, all of the business management for an HOA is handled off-site. There are professional management companies who do all of the things. So there is absolutely no reason to have a clubhouse on site for the management of the HOA. I am acquainted with it. I participate in one. I, get all of my notices in the mail or by email, and it's all done by a professional offsite organization.
I'm not with you, buddy. That's all it is to it. I'm not with you on this because I like to see, I live in an HOA that's growing all the time, and I know they need some meeting room. I know they need space. I know they need, I understand about the property manager. Just so you know, Mr. Victor, for 6 years, I was the president of the HOA of my own community. I know what it takes to run that place correctly.
Okay.
It's a small business like with the people there. When they get in there, they're gonna find out they need one. And like you said, too late, too bad, build one. Building costs go up all the time, all the time, all the time. I think I'd be remiss to tell you, you're in the wrong direction with this clubhouse stuff. They need to have a place. I know what it takes to run one of those places. I was in a place now that's grown over 200 homes, and you need a meeting place. You need a business place. I know about the property manager. I know all about it. I've worked with it for a number of years, and it works nice. But you still need a place to meet with the people. The people need to know what's going on. They've got to have a place, and it's a good way to build community. When people gather together, they meet one another. It makes improves the community and the way of life in that particular area. That's my case. I'll let somebody else speak, but they can take it the way they want. But I'm going to tell you from personal experience and running an organization like that, you need a meeting place. You need a clubhouse. Yeah, meeting room. You need it. I know about your Zoom, I know about your Wi-Fi, I know about your computer, I'm real knowledgeable about all this stuff. That doesn't get the job done. Thank you.
Even the shelter that you're talking about putting in there, that's only 2 picnic tables. You could see 12 people in there, and how many homes are you building?
144,
Well,
145, sorry.
that sounds like a shelter I put in my backyard.
Quite honestly, we have not sized it. We have not specified it for purposes of this preliminary. If you give us a specific standard that you would like to see at the time of the final plans, we'll be happy to make the shelter larger.
Thank you.
Well, let me add to that, Mr. Victor. I got a guy here who can attest to this better than I can. But that has to be at least big enough to house 75 to 100 people. You understand? Go ahead, Russ. You speak to that?
Yeah, the park, the pickleball court, it looks like a gazebo. It's an outdoor space for the residents to get together. Instead of putting a little gazebo in, that would be the place, a clubhouse and restrooms, so when they're out in their park, it would be a double use. There's no place for these people walking down the trail. I'm not seeing restrooms. That gazebo, that'll seat 10 people. That would be the perfect spot for the clubhouse.
I agree.
Restroom. It's a park.
Mr. Victor, you want to go back to your people and see if you can build at minimum a larger pavilion?
We will have no problem building a larger pavilion.
Thank
That
you.
will be not a problem.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Now remember, now keep at the house, you have to accommodate at least 75 to 100 people. When you gather, when I held meetings, we had between 75 and 100 people gather for their meetings. And we held more than one meeting, by the way. You don't hold one annual meeting. I know you don't seem familiar with HOA. You meet throughout the year, numerous times on different issues. There's not a one-time deal. And what do you want to do? Stand out in the snow and talk? I don't like the idea of going on and renting space down at the hotel. A community that size, 3 HOAs to be accommodated by building a clubhouse with a meeting room. But the minimum, if you had a pavilion, at least they can meet there in good weather. And you go back and talk about it.
I would be happy to talk to them. I'm sure we can make the shelter area larger. I don't know how they will react to the clubhouse. They were pretty adamant when I went to them previously on several occasions.
I can make a suggestion. If the board doesn't mind. Under our zoning code for conditional uses, we can hold another hearing within 45 days from this one without making a decision tonight. And I want to point out, first want to put a couple questions on the record, but I want to point out too that we don't have in our packet of exhibits the traffic statement. I understand that Mr. Groom, our engineer, has reviewed the traffic study, and he concurs with what Mr. Victor has told us. However, it's not in the list of exhibits. And section 245-103-1D requires a written calculation of the number of peak hour trips. That needs to be added to our Mr. Victor, did you hear that?
Yes, it should be
We
the
need-
peak hour traffic.
Yeah.
Peak hour traffic is in the traffic report. Are you telling me that?
The traffic report isn't a part of the exhibits tonight. We need to make that a part of the exhibits. But I'm offering to you and to the board if we want to. It sounds like they have some serious reservations about the plan regarding the HOA issues. Maybe somebody else from your development group who you're talking with might be able to address them at the next Board of Supervisors meeting.
Sure, absolutely.
I think that might be a way to handle it. And before you want to move on too, I want to ask Mr. Groom on the on their initial review letters, there were a couple of deficiencies noted, and I want to ask if those have been resolved with the streetlight plan and the Washington Finance ownership issue of Burkett Lane.
Scott Green did the initial review, I did the follow-up.
I get everybody backwards tonight.
It's no problem.
At least I didn't call Mr. Weber Mr. Moore.
So we, the main outstanding issues that were reviewed were the streetlights. The street lighting plan was provided by Mr. Victor. And we had some, not a concern, but just raised a general comment from the geotechnical report about the presence of possible carbonaceous materials. And that was also addressed to our satisfaction. by Mr. Victor.
Okay, in that instance, then I think really all we need to hear about is we need to make sure that we have that written traffic study appended to the exhibits for the peak hour, whatever was required under section 103. And I think Mr. Victor knows what I need. And I think we'll continue this and maybe invite the developer to answer some of your questions.
Very good.
Does that sound acceptable, Mr. Victor?
Yes, we would be continuing this next month then?
Yes.
That would be acceptable. Will there be an opportunity for public comment this evening so we can see if there's any other issues to be addressed?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't know that the board has done either. I just wanted to put that out there before we got, I don't want them to feel pressure to make a decision if we had the option to come back with a little bit more discussion with the other people in your group to know those answers. So I've kind of interrupted there.
No problem.
What about the time?
Well, we have 45 days after the last hearing.
Okay.
So if we were going to close the record, we have 45 days to give them a decision. But if we continue this to another hearing, we have 45 days from the next hearing. Yes.
Chris, you want to make an announcement about in the public?
Well, are there any members of the public attending by Zoom who wish to make any comments on the record?
Yes, sir. My name is David Posner. I am a lawyer in Washington. I represent Paul Barnes, and it brokers the partnership that is at the entry area of the plan along Burkett Lane. The issue, and the only issue that I want to call to your attention, is the fact that as nearly as we can determine from the surveys that Brokers has and the agreement with the folks on the other side of Burkett Lane, as nearly as we can tell, there is an encroachment of Burkett Lane as it is drawn in these drawings into the property of the Brokers. And that's a problem because they own part of what they're proposing to make a public road and have not come to an agreement with the Brokers. In fact, they haven't talked to them at all. And that's going to be a problem in terms of dedication of the property. Moreover, I would point out that B&W Insurance, which is of course sits in the middle of that property, is how they get in and out of their property, where they park in that parcel that we argue is is in the road, and therefore there need to be clear and precise surveys out of that area to assure that the rights of the Brokers and B&W are protected. I don't wish to take issue with anything more than that singular matter. And of course, the greater problem of traffic, but that's going to be resolved at some point in the future, I guess, between now and the next hearing. But I wanted to go on record as on behalf of Brokers and Paul Bards and B&W Insurance to say, you can't take that little corner without talking to my client.
Did you get his name and address there, Chris?
That's Mr. Posner.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that? I missed that. Okay.
Is it possible to ask Mr. Posner a question, please?
Sure.
Yes.
We have submitted to the township a Alta survey by Gateway. That survey was reviewed by the township's engineer
It is
and
my,
has not been found has not been found to encroach on any of the Itbrocas property. Have you reviewed that plan, and can you or your engineer specifically tell us where you believe there is encroachment? Because if we are encroaching, we would like to rectify that. But you have not provided anything that contradicts two engineers who have reviewed the documents.
It is my understanding that the township engineer now understands that there is an issue about encroachment. They spoke to Mr. Barnes and said, you know, it's apparent that your survey is correct and you have a deed for what is referred to in parcel C and an agreement between Brocas and the folks on the other side. So I would be happy to provide that to you, not here at the hearing, obviously. I'm happy to communicate with you directly and share it with the township solicitor so that he can be aware of what the issues are and how we're going to resolve it. We're not trying to, all we want to do is be sure that if there is an encroachment, you deal with us. And further, that you don't affect the right of access that a Brocas and B&W Insurance has to get into their property. They've been there a long time.
Yeah, we do not believe we are encroaching, but if there is, we're happy to work with that.
Sure.
We also believe that by the public dedication of this, it further strengthens and guarantees the rights of access that Brocas will have to Burkett Lane. And again, if that is inconsistent, we would want to rectify that. There's nothing we want to do to reduce the expectations and access the property has today.
I'll show it to you in a diagram, but not here now.
Please.
Doesn't work well, frankly.
Yeah.
I don't want to disparage the process of doing Zoom meetings. I do a lot of them, but they don't always work for these purposes.
Yeah, if you could please contact me, happy to make an exchange of information, and I'm sure we can work through this in advance of next month.
I'm sure we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to make a comment on the record? Hearing none, do the supervisors have any further questions? Okay, at this time, I'm going to recommend that the supervisors make a motion to continue this hearing to the next meeting, at which time we take further testimony regarding plans from the developer and possibly B&W and Mr. Posner's clients regarding the point of access and the encroachment issue.
You have a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Victor, please.
All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0 to continue.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Do we have the traffic study in our file? Okay, we just need to somebody just needs to make sure we make that an exhibit for the next year.
Pat, if you can make sure that that's here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Victor, just so if you're still there.
Yes, I am.
I don't know if you heard that. I just asked our staff to make the traffic study an exhibit for the next hearing, so you won't need to do that.
Thank you very much.
Look, you're welcome. Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Firm. We'll move on then. No, we just voted to continue here. Okay, letter E. Motion accepting the resignation of Patrick Smider and Associates and appointing Sweat Law to serve as zoning hearing board solicitor through December 31st, 2021. So want to give a briefing on that, Mr. Stanley?
Sure, the township's in receipt of a resignation from Pat Smider and Associates from serving as the township's zoning hearing board solicitor. Pat Smider has done so since 2016. At the direction of the Board of Supervisors, a request for qualifications was prepared. The position advertised and interviews were conducted by the zoning hearing board. The township received proposals from 4 firms: David Montgomery Law Firm, Sweat Law Offices, Covert Law, and Tax Act Law. And zoning hearing board conducted interviews and recommends the Board of Supervisors appoint the zoning hearing board solicitor for a term ending December 31st.
Thank you, Mr. Stanek. Motion to move this appointment.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Okay, F, motion allocating additional funds in the amount of $5,650 for the Billy Bell Park Playgrounds project. Mr. Stanek, please.
The township is currently preparing for the purchase and installation of the new Billy Bell Park Playground, as Kevin had reported previously. It's the equipment and the upgrades to the handicap parking area. I recall the township was awarded a 50% matching grant through the DCNR's Community Parks and Recreation Grant Program in 2020. Township's 2021 final budget allocates $46,100 for this project, and the cost of the equipment and installation of the new playground has increased to $94,122 as it is being ordered this year. Additionally, the vendor, which is a CoStar's approved vendor for pricing, has advised that the material surcharge is being applied in the amount of $3,700 due to the COVID-19 issues and supply chain disruptions Kevin had mentioned earlier. Big thing to note is if the material is not ordered by May 14th, township may incur an additional surcharge on the equipment. And to avoid any additional increase in cost, it's recommended the board approve an additional $5,636 for this project. The township is able to absorb this through contingency that is built into the 2021 final budget.
All hands on deck saying everything's okay. Township engineer, you're okay with it, Brandon? Kevin? We're
Yes,
okay
sir.
with it? Well, let's move forward and let's have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve money for Billy Bell Playground project.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. I need a second, please.
I'll make a second.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Need a roll call vote on that, Mr. Stanek.
Mr. Burns,
Yes.
Mr. Grego,
Yes.
Mr. Lukatich,
Yes.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes.
Chair Weber.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. Letter G, motion awarding lowest qualified bid for public works materials and fuel. Better go over that, Brandon.
So pursuant to the second class township code, townships are required to advertise bids for the purchase of materials, services, contracts exceeding $21,300. Bid advertisements for seal coating, stone, asphalt, gasoline, and diesel were advertised in the the April 1st and April 4th, 2021 editions of the OR. Bids were received and opened on 1 p.m. on April 16th at a public meeting in the municipal building meeting room. The lowest acceptable bid for seal coating came from Youngblood Paving at $126 a square yard. The lowest acceptable bid for stone came from Cool Spring Stone Supply and Hanson. And the asphalt bid was won by Golden Eagle Construction. The lowest acceptable bid for diesel came from Chem Oil at 1.9424 per gallon delivered. The tally sheets are attached for comparison. No acceptable bids were received for gasoline or 2A limestone. And so the item one has been rebid, will be prepared for the next board meeting for your consideration. And also this year we bid gasoline as delivered. We are looking at the cost benefit of providing our own above ground gasoline tanks so that we may be able to see some cost savings there in the future instead of the pump price.
Russ, I'm gonna get a resident expert on this. How about speaking to it? Please?
Yeah, the bids came back very well. I checked with neighboring, our neighbors, very happy with the prices this year. Compared to construction and building costs, so much gold is very, very good.
How about that above ground, gas tank? How would that work out?
I'll have to look into that further. I know diesel is 1,000 or less, double line above ground, about 1,000 gallons. I'll have to look into that a little further. Gasoline, how far it has to be away.
If I may, I just completed a underground storage tank gas canopy for another. So it's something that we just.
Couple more on that.
Well, commission-
Okay, good.
supervisor.
Okay, anybody, board, any questions? Okay, let's, need a motion to awarding the lowest qualified bid for public works materials and fuel.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mr. Lukasich. Second, please. Thanks, Mr. Murphy. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Letter H, motion purchase of fire alarm system panel and monitoring services for the municipal building. Standing.
Presented for the board's consideration is a request to purchase a fire alarm system panel and monitoring services for the municipal building. Earlier this month, one of the motors and power the rooftop units malfunctioned, generating a large amount of smoke in the rear of the building. Fortunately, this occurred during the day when staff was present and able to respond. Following this event, staff solicited quotes from 3 vendors for the installation of a fire alarm panel with monitoring services from 3 companies: Electronic Alarm Systems, Guardian Protection, and Advanced Fire Systems. The installation costs include fire alarm control panel, backup battery, smoke detectors, heat detectors, manual pull stations, horns, strobe lights, interior and exterior, 2 panic buttons, and cellular connection. Electronic Alarm Systems is the township's current vendor for monitoring the police station and public works facility. Monitoring of both these facilities is currently $645 annually. It is recommended the board approve the quote from Electric Alarm Systems in the amount of $5,450, given the township's established relationship with the company and the more competitive monitoring cost after 3 years of service. Chief, do you have anything to add?
The only thing that I'd like to add is that this has probably been needed for over 40 years.
Nice to hear.
This building being protected is, I know the building is old, but it's what's in the building and everything that we have as far as documents and computers. But like Brandon stated that 2-3 weeks ago, we had a unit up on a roof that filled Scott Heckman's office full of smoke. And if that would have happened at 2 or 3 in the morning, it's hard to say what would have happened, because nobody had been in here to know the difference, where that would have picked up the presence of smoke right away. Down out the money, company just got. So it's muchly needed, and it's been a long time coming.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate the information. Need a motion to move on. Let's see here. Motion purchase of fire alarm system panel monitoring service for the municipal building using the electronic alarm system. Is that right, Mr. Stanley?
Yes, electronic alarm. Yep.
Okay. At a cost of you got $54.50 plus there's a year one is free on monitoring. Okay, I need a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. Second. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any further discussion on the issue? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Aye, motion terminating the service agreement with robotics. Go ahead, Mr. Stanley.
Presented for the board's consideration is the motion to terminate the services received from Robotics Incorporated. The board may recall the township engaged with Robotics in early 2019 to annually inventory and assess the condition of township roads. The benefit of the township in using this tool is to assess and monitor, based on objective data, roadway conditions and improved planning for capital costs associated with roadway maintenance. Cost of this service is $4,640 per year for 5 years. Robotics has since changed the method of data collection and can no longer dedicate personnel to collect the data required for the program, and is now requiring the township to film the roadways. As a result of this change, Robotics is offering a 15% discount only. Additionally, data collection in 2020 revealed some shortcomings with this new technology, such as inconsistencies with the rating system, where improved road conditions when no work was performed the prior year, as well as duplicate mistakes from the previous year, filming of roads that are not necessarily maintained by the township. After polling the board prior to the meeting, the township manager was authorized to terminate the agreement with Robotics due to the aforementioned issue.
Thank you, Mr. Stanek. Motion to terminate the service agreement with robotics.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Lukasich. I need a second. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Letter J, motion accepting the resignation of Joseph Jossack. Mr. Stanek?
We have a resignation from Police Officer Joseph Josek for the board to consider.
Thank you very much. Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation.
Thank you, Mr. Lukasich. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Without further discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Motion appointing a full-time police officer. Mr. Stanigan, the chief, please.
Good evening. With that resignation, we now have an opening and we have just the candidate to replace. Thanks to the police hiring process, oral written examination and oral examination was conducted by Mr. Murphy, Mr. Lukasich, Mr. Stanek, and myself. We arrived at number one candidate, Connor Cooley. After a successful background check, we present him for consideration and recommend that we move forward with that hiring process, which will consist of a few more examinations and finish the offer.
Thank you, chief. Thank you very much. Motion appointing a full-time police officer. What's his name again?
Connor Cooley.
Connor Coley. Need a motion, please.
I'll make that a motion.
Thank you.
Him complete whatever he has to complete.
On condition
Yeah.
of additional requirement.
All the other chiefs.
Okay, good. I need a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Lukasich. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Letter L, resolution authorizing signatories with Huntington Bank, and that's self-explanatory. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Need a second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Number 10, motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Mr. Grego, you can make that second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are officially adjourned.